you're an expert at what you do and you're starting a service business around that expertise, there's one mistake that looks productive but quietly costs you years. And the worst part, I did this too. When I first started, I was so eager to get out of my 9 to 5 that I rushed straight into getting started. And I didn't realize until much later that I'd skipped the most important part. So in this video, I want to show you the most expensive mistake new service businesses make, why it feels like the right move at the time, and how to avoid learning this the hard way, like I did. When most experts are starting a business, they usually start by thinking about the stuff they need to look legit. They want people to know they exist, so they pick a name, they get a logo, they throw up a website. And that's exactly what I did too. When I first started, I made a quick logo, dropped it into a WordPress template, put up some work examples, and thought I was off to make my fortune. Because now I was, businessy. In my head, moving fast like this, I thought I was doing the right thing. But what actually happened was, people didn't really know what I was doing or who I was for. Some thought I was a blogger, others thought I was just kind of messing around online. And that was frustrating because I was a legit graphic designer. I had years of experience in my corporate career. I had strong work. I had a couple of early clients, but what I didn't realize at the time is that I had built everything around me. My work, my process, my experience. And that's an easy mistake to make when you're an expert, speaking from experience here. But what it actually does is confuse people and quietly turn them away. And once that happens, everything gets harder than it should be. I see other experts do this all the time. You're good at what you do, you've helped real people, you have years of proof, but your new business just can't seem to get ahead. So you start tweaking things. And when that doesn't work, you tweak them again. You go back and fix the logo or the website or the wording, but the real problem is deeper than that. The logo, the website, the content, those are just the surface. And if what's underneath isn't clear, none of that stuff is going to fix it. And this is where things start to get expensive. And not just expensive in terms of the logo or the website, but expensive because you built all of that before you understood what was underneath it. I've seen this play out so many times with our customers. People come in excited, they've got an idea, they've got energy, they just want it to work. And they know they need a logo and a website, so that's what they ask us for. And a lot of the time, we'll try to slow them down and explain what I'm explaining to you right now, that those things are really just the tip of the iceberg, but sometimes they're not convinced. So they move forward anyway, and they just buy a logo and a website. The work itself looks good, but even before we're done, the process starts to get painful because now they can't decide what they want anymore, or what's working or what's not. And the reason is simple. They have no lens to judge anything through. They don't really understand their customer yet, or their competitors, or their market, or what actually makes them different. So everything turns into personal taste. One day, they love it. The next day, they hate it. Then their spouse weighs in. Then a former coworker has an opinion. And then they run a poll on Facebook. And suddenly, it's just a mess. Then it turns into, can we try a totally different direction? Eventually, we ship it. And if I do ever hear from them again, it's usually the same thing. This isn't working, nobody's reaching out, people don't get it. But the logo didn't fail, the website didn't fail. What failed was that they never took the time to get clarity around the things that would have made those tools actually communicate. And that's the real cost. You end up spending all of your time fixing the surface because you don't even realize the real issue is underneath. So you change the words, you change the look, you post random content. You feel like you're improving, but really you're just improvising. Nothing clicks because you're throwing things at the wall and hoping something sticks. And the whole time, you're not even thinking about the people you're trying to connect with. They don't really care about your work history or your process or that your logo is your favorite color. What they care about is their problem, what they're trying to fix, what they're trying to move forward on. They just want to find someone who understands them and feels trustworthy. And when that connection never happens, you don't just lose the money you spent up front. You lose momentum, you lose confidence, and you lose months you can't get back. So if you're working really hard and it feels like you're just spinning your wheels, there's a really simple way to explain why that's happening. And I want to show you that next. Okay, so I've got a hammer and I've got a screwdriver. Both are extremely useful tools. So let's say I grab this screwdriver, leave the hammer behind, and then I get to the job and realize I need to pound nails. What am I going to do? I'm going to hit the nails with the back of the screwdriver, and yeah, it kind of works. But everything is way harder than it should be. It takes longer, feels awkward, It's frustrating. And that's exactly what happens when you build a logo or a website before you understand what it's actually supposed to do. You picked the tool before you knew the job. And what most people do at that point is they just force it to work. They keep hitting the nail with the back of the screwdriver. They tell themselves, it shouldn't be this hard, but I guess this is just how business is. But the problem was never the effort. It wasn't the hustle. It wasn't motivation. The problem was that you never stopped to ask, what's the job I'm actually trying to do here? And until that's clear, every tool you pick is going to feel a little wrong. That's why so many experts starting a business end up working way harder than they need to. Once you see it this way, it's pretty hard to unsee it. And hey, I put together a free resource below that walks you through this exact foundation before logos or websites or anything else really. If you're serious about building this the right way, start there. When things aren't working, it's easy to think the problem is execution. You assume you need better tactics, a better website, a better logo, or more output. But for early stage, expert-led service businesses, that's usually not what's missing. What's actually missing is clarity. Not the let me think about that for a little while kind, but real defined clarity about what your business is actually there to do, who it's for, what problem it's meant to solve, and what changes for that person when they work with you. Most people skip this because they make it all about themselves, their work, their experience, their background, which is an incredibly easy mistake to make when you are an expert. So until you have that foundational clarity, every hammer or screwdriver you pick up is just a guess. You don't actually know the job yet, so you can't know which tool makes sense. You still need a logo and a website, but now you're building them with clarity and purpose. Now they're designed to speak to your customer's problem and the outcome they care about, not just say something about you. And once that foundation is clear, decisions get easier, feedback gets clear, messaging starts to click. But that's why so many people feel stuck. They keep fixing the tools when what they really needed was the foundation underneath them. And once you have that, you finally have the right tool for the right job. So if you're about to start your own expert-led service-based business, hopefully this helped you skip a mistake that almost everybody makes. And if you've already started and you've been at it for a while and you're feeling stuck, hopefully now you understand why. In most cases, it's not a motivation problem, it's not a talent problem, and it's definitely not a work ethic problem. It's just that you didn't know what you didn't know. You skipped a piece of the foundation that everything else was supposed to be built on. And honestly, how were you even supposed to know that? The good news is, this isn't permanent. You don't have to scrap everything you've already done. You don't need to start over. You just need to go back, fill in the gaps, and get the order right. And then, if needed, you can make some service level adjustments based on that new foundation. Because when the foundation is clear, the tools finally start working the way that they're supposed to. And in this next video, I'm going to walk you through the first step to gain that foundational clarity for your business. It's the exact workshop I use with all of my clients, and you can follow right along. I really think you're going to love it. Once you go through that process, you can stop overcomplicating things and trust that your logo, your website, and your marketing are actually doing their job instead of being a constant source of stress. If you're finding any of this stuff useful, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear about the business you're building.